If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is VSiN PrimeTime. Live from the Circa Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Will Hill, Matt Youmans here on a Thursday night, getting ready for Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals between the Minnesota Timberwolves and OKC Thunder. And this game's going to tip off in about a half hour. It is our primetime game of the night because we don't have many choices tonight. Let's get to it.
The lights are on and the stakes are high. It's the primetime game of the night.
All right, Will. After what happened last night at the Garden in New York, I think the anticipation for the Eastern Conference Finals games is much higher than what's happening in the West. Would you agree with that? It feels like Knicks-Pacers is must-see TV. I'm not sure many people are going to view Minnesota-OKC the same way.
I would agree with that, but all we can do is hope for a good game, and this is primarily a live betting show, so I just think with the way these playoffs have gone, with the way last night went, once somebody's down 15 or 20, don't we just automatically fire on the dog, whether it's plus the points or the money line? I can't even imagine what some of the prices were on the Pacers live late in that game, 30-1, 40-1, who knows? But we'll see. I'm pessimistic that Minnesota can make this a competitive series. I thought they had a chance to steal one in game one, couldn't make a three. Now it's just going to get tougher and tougher. So I would expect Oklahoma City to win tonight. And if I had to take it or lay it, I would lay the points here with the Thunder.
T-Wolves 15 for 51 from three in game one. They led at the half by 4 and got blown out 114-88. And that three-point shooting went cold in the second half. OKC right now an 8.5-point favorite. Total of 216.5 here at Circa. It's 8.5, 217.5 at DraftKings. And we are about a half hour away from tip-off in OKC. How about some player props? Let's talk about Anthony Edwards. If the T-Wolves are going to cover or win this game tonight, Jensen Lewis joined us in the first hour of the show. He took a shot on the T-Wolves on the money line tonight at about plus 260. Anthony Edwards is going to have to show up big time. He had 18 points in game one, but went scoreless in the fourth quarter. Will, at DraftKings, you can bet Anthony Edwards 26 points or more at minus 115. Do you think he comes back with a vengeance tonight?
I'd like over more than under, just for those reasons, because you got a good player who's going to be motivated, who I'm sure has thought about, heard about, talked about, hey, you were quiet in the fourth quarter, you didn't do anything. I'm sure it's going to be a point of emphasis. I wonder, a lot of these books offer over-under for points in the first quarter. Maybe over points in the first quarter would be a way to attack it, thinking he's going to come out and be ultra aggressive, especially early on. But, yeah, nothing I bet, but would prefer the over to the under.
Yeah, I think I would too. I would think that Edwards has heard the criticism what happened in game one when he didn't score in the fourth quarter, 5 for 13 from the field. And he got, let's face it, he was shown up by SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who didn't have a great shooting game, but did pick it up in the second half and finished with 31 points. So I think Edwards will probably be out to make a point tonight. The OKC Thunder won 68 games during the regular season. SGA was the MVP, and he's been great in the postseason in terms of putting up 30-plus point games. Will, at DraftKings, SGA, 32 points or more at minus 125. That's a high number. I would probably stay away from playing that over tonight. He had 31 in game one. What do you think there?
Yeah, and I know I just said I prefer the over to the under on Edwards. It does feel, when you're talking about these marquee players and betting their points props, you're probably not going to make a profit betting over on these guys. It's just everybody wants to bet the over. Everyone wants to root for the over. I mean, who wants to sit there for 2.5 hours with an SGA under points ticket? What's boring is usually what's better to bet. The fun ones, SGA over points, Jokic over points. Not that they don't ever win, but I probably prefer under with SGA. Plus, the line's 8.5. if they're up 20 early fourth quarter, I mean, there's always a possibility of a blowout, always a possibility of foul trouble, that kind of thing. So would prefer the under to the over. I saw his triple-double props at 35-1. He has not been getting the rebounds. I wonder if against Minnesota if he'll be able to rebound as well. He got a couple double-digit ones against the Nuggets, but if you're just looking to throw in a pizza bet, you just want to watch the game and have some action, 35-1 on SGA triple-double, not terrible. So that's one that I think, he had the potential assist versus the Nuggets. He had some double-digit rebounds against the Nuggets. Wasn't able to get the triple-double. Maybe he can have a 27, 10, and 10 type of game. So 35-1, if you're looking for a fun one, that could be a way to go.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that tonight. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 31 points, 9 assists. Let's see, what was it? 5 rebounds, actually, in Game 1. All right, one more player to mention, and that's Julius Randle. He showed up big time. He showed up from the start for the T-Wolves in Game 1. He hit 5 of 6 threes. He finished with 28 points, 8 rebounds. Aside from Randle, the rest of the T-Wolves shot 10 for 45 from 3. He was 5 for 6 from 3. Tonight at DraftKings, Julius Randle's points prop, 20 or more at minus 120. And, Will, like you said there, I think with the T-Wolves, after taking a butt kicking in Game 1, I'm not going to bet under on Edwards and Randle tonight because I think those guys are going to come out as determined as ever. And again, that plays into that zigzag type of theory betting in these NBA playoff series. All right, Will Hill, Matt Youmans here on VSiN PrimeTime, about a half hour away from Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. Big day here at VSiN and Circa. Derek Stevens in studio with Mitch Moss and Paul Howard on Follow the Money, and he made the long-anticipated announcement about the Circa football handicapping contest in the fall. These are the biggest football handicapping contests in the world, and it's even bigger and better than ever. We're going to replay Derek Stevens talking about the Circa Survivor and the $15 million guarantee, which I predict is going to blow by the $15 million this year. Here's Derek Stevens with Mitch and Paul.
And now the contest that took off like wildfire over the last couple of years, Circa Survivor. Mike, what are the details on this bad boy?
Well, it's basically we're running it back, obviously, Mitch. And the big question is the guarantee. Just to say, it's the same 20-pick format. You have your 18 weeks, and then the 3 games on Thanksgiving plus the Black Friday game are their own separate week. That's 13A and 13B. And then thank you to the commissioner, we got 3 games on Christmas. So that becomes its own week as well, 17A. So if you run it all the way through, it's 20 picks. It is still a $1,000 buy-in. It is still a 10 max entry. When you look at the history, in the past 2 years, 2 years ago, we guaranteed $8 million and we got to 9.2. Last year, we guaranteed 10, and we saw the big leap to 14.2. So this was the debate. What would the guarantee be? And, Derek says we always must move forward. We are moving forward in 4th gear. The guarantee is $15 million.
I mean, he threw out $100 million, and me and Mike really had to walk it back.
First of all, I threw out no guarantee. If you recall the meeting, I said, is it big enough that we don't need a guarantee? And Derek called that one of the most lunatic ideas.
So then Derek throws out 100. I table 15, and that's where we landed.
Did you really throw out 100?
No, they're embellishing. No. Not that I recollect.
Did you ever consider? Did you want a bigger number than 15?
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, we have to be reasonable. That last year we guaranteed 10. And then I think a couple things happened. When we thought about it, well, we hit 10. Yeah, we'll hit 10. And I think we did the show with you guys. Well, we hit 11, maybe 12, But it was really the last 10 days where things really took off, you know. We had this show, the Circa Survivor, that documentary came out. And I think that really, really pushed the entries in the last 2 weeks. So we got us to 14.2. So no, I feel pretty good. We guaranteed 10 million last year. Now we're guaranteeing 15 million. Mm-hmm. It's the big, not only the increase in the guarantee is bigger than any other football contest ever. So I feel pretty good about it.
All right, that's Derek Stevens with Mike Palm and Jeff Benson. And was Jeff Benson sitting on the floor? Can we get him a bigger chair? Will, did you see that? What was the deal here? There's no way Mike Palm towers over Jeff Benson like that.
I was just thinking. I didn't know Mike Palm was the size of Randy Johnson, the big unit. So, no, very taken back. I don't think I've met Mike Palm in person, so it's possible Mike Palm is just the Rudy Gobert of Circa and of VSiN.
He looked like Andre the Giant next to Jeff Benson right there in that photo. Now, hopefully they got Benson a bigger chair for the next segment because that was unfair. Anyway, I predicted it was going to be $15 million for the Circa Survivor Guarantee. Pretty easy, going from 10 to 15 when it hit 14.2 last season. I think it's going to blow by 15 this year too. Again, if you don't know Circa Survivor, you pick one NFL team a week just to win. If that team wins, you survive in advance. If that team loses, you get knocked out. We've had plenty of attrition in the first week of this contest in recent years. And you can only use NFL teams once the entire season, so there's a lot of strategy and planning that goes into Circa Survivor. And that's why it's the most popular contest. And it's simple, but it's also fascinating, and it's the biggest football handicapping contest in the world, Circa Survivor, with a $15 million guarantee for 2025. Derek Stevens, Mike Palm, and Jeff Benson there with Mitch and Paul on Follow the Money. We got more to talk about with the football contest, the Circa Million, and a new contest that Derek Stevens unveiled. We'll get to that later in the show tonight. Take your betting to the next level with First Bet. Whether it's Santa Anita, Gulfstream Park, or Saratoga, First Bet puts the action at your fingertips. Sign up now at firstbet.com. That's the number one, STBet.com. Use promo code VSiN200 to score a 20% rebate on all your wagers for the first 60 days, up to $200. Don't miss out. Bet smarter today at firstbet.com. We're talking about the Belmont coming up here in a couple weeks. And coming up next on this show, we're going to talk more baseball with Will Hill. Will, are you fired up for the football handicapping contest season now after hearing Derek Stevens and Mike Palm talk about all the money that's going to be up for grabs here at Circa this fall?
I am. I love it. And the best thing about Circa, as long as you're in it, you're the chip leader. You're in first place.
And Derek Stevens tries to make these contests bigger and better every year. And then again, that's going to be true for 2025. Quick break. Will Hill and I talk baseball betting. We come back here in a couple minutes.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
All right, we have some technical difficulties with the Starlink satellite setup above Will Hill's house in Connecticut tonight, so Will's going to sit this one out. But we're going to welcome in our old friend, co-host of this show, Jonathan Von Tobel. JVT joins us now on the Progressive Guest Line. JVT, do you miss doing 4 hours of prime time every night?
I do. I miss getting into the nitty-gritty live betting stuff and sitting around and watching games and hanging out with you and Justin and Tim. Absolutely.
Well, okay.
But, yeah.
Nah, we miss you here, too. You know what? Last night, talking about live betting, how about the Indiana Pacers as high as 40-1 on the money line when they trailed the Knicks in the fourth quarter? Could you believe what you were watching last night in the fourth quarter at the Garden?
No, I couldn't, and neither could the Yankees fan / Knicks fan at the bar that I was at either, as he was having a complete and utter meltdown while he was playing video poker. It was incredible, dude. And it's the epitome, Matt, of this run. Today on Money Moves, I went through my entire list of just ridiculous Pacer stats, and every stat is teams were 1,414-0, or since 97-98, or since the play-by-play era. This team has just done it a million times throughout this postseason run, and they're doing it me, right? There's so many different things that I think fly in the face of what I like to look at. Shooting Aaron Nesmith, not only shooting 8 of 9 from three-point range, but hitting 6 3-point attempts in the last 4 minutes and 55 seconds. There's so many improbable things that have led them here, but you have to give them credit. Like they're getting it done, and they're outperforming their opponents. They do not crack under pressure. If you go back to the regular season, Matt, they are now 29-14 in clutch games. And actually, I think it might now be 30-14 in clutch games. So games within 5 points, 5 or fewer minutes left to go. They've answered the call every time, man. And it's been very impressive to watch them every single game.
You can follow him at JVT and catch him on the show with Stormy Bonantoni. I believe Stormy's off this week, right?
This week and next, she is in Italy.
Okay.
So I will have to man the fort by myself here for the next 10 days or so.
The stat, fact, whatever you want to call it, you were talking about teams leading by 9 points or more with a minute to go were 1,434-0 in NBA playoff games before the Pacers pulled it off last night. And the Pacers have pulled off a few of these comebacks in these playoffs. So when you looked at that last night, it's always a combination of the two. But to you, was it more of just an incredible comeback or an epic collapse on the part of the Knicks? Because I always say every time there's a comeback, that means the other team misses free throws, turns it over, and that's what the Knicks did during that meltdown last night. Like you said, Aaron Nesmith went wild from 3 last night, and the Pacers did a lot of things right. Knicks did a lot of things wrong. It's always a combination of the two, right?
Yeah, no, I would completely agree. Like, you mentioned Nesmith. Part of the reason why Nesmith was hitting 6 threes was because they were ignoring him almost defensively, despite the fact that he is well over a 40% three-point shooter. The Pacers were running some really good stuff. At one point, like Aaron, I think it was Tyrese Halliburton and Ben Shepherd ran like a pick and roll together, and you're like, what the hell is this? And that led to a Nesmith 3. So the Pacers were doing stuff well, but the Knicks weren't doing stuff great. And I don't know if you saw, there was a clip from the TNT like overtime. So I don't know if you know what this is, but it's like an extra feed where it shows like the sidelines, things like that. You don't get audio, but you can see the interactions. And when they cut the lead to about 4 or 5, they go to a timeout, and Brunson and OG Anunoby and Cat, like they're all sniping at each other, all getting after each other. They were melting down that stretch. I thought Captain Clutch, Jalen Brunson, played like crap down the stretch as well, just wildly charging into guys, trying to draw fouls. Matt, there was a point where he gets double teamed in the corner when they're inbounding it, and he tries to throw it off, and he gets very lucky because he actually goes through 2 defenders and finds its way to another New York Knick. I think there was a mix of everything, and we should not also forget, because it's going to be lost, because again, when you have comebacks like this, things have to go your way too. We should not forget the very key and missed goaltend that was not called for the New York Knicks, or I should say for the Indiana Pacers. That was a clear and obvious goaltend, and that should have been called in the moment. They could have gone back and reviewed it, and it should have been set. It should have been set, and they maybe would have iced the game. But that's just one of many things that happened. That doesn't take away from what Indiana did and what New York failed to do.
Well, you were talking about that Brunson pass where he slammed the ball to the floor just out of desperation because he's jumping out of bounds. But what I said was, first of all, they inbounded the pass to Brunson in the corner, which you don't want to do. Immediately he's trapped. I noticed this last night. How much credit do you give to Rick Carlisle? Because he's a really good coach, and I thought the Pacers had a great game plan defensively. They're not a great defensive team, but did you notice the Knicks had trouble executing simple inbounds passes all night last night?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they were brilliant. Look, I don't think there's any question. The coaching goes to Rick Carlisle here. Like, I don't think Tom Thibodeau is like this great mastermind when it comes to drawing up plays out of bounds or anything like that. You mentioned the issues getting it in play. I thought there was I think it was their second to last inbound. I thought the Knicks committed a 5-second violation in one of those inbounds down the stretch, and it just wasn't called because they were just having so many issues. And going back to Brunson too, Matt, he dribbled into 2 double teams, right? When there was the one in the corner that we're talking about. There was another one in the front court where he had to desperately get rid of it as well. I thought it was just a complete and utter failure. And you're right. And I thought Zach Cohen, he wrote about this. He brought this up when he was talking about this earlier on, I think it was a numbers game. But like on a game-to-game basis, when you're talking about adjustments, I think the Pacers are going to have a pretty big edge. And the fact that they have a 1-0 lead and now film to work on, that's a big feather in the cap because Carlisle's awesome. And I think he's going to be able to coach circles around Tibbs, and he did it yesterday.
He got the better of Tibbs in game 1. Jalen Brunson, 43 points, but 7 turnovers. And 138-135, Pacers get the win over the Knicks in overtime. That was on a fast pace. It flew over the total last night. I mentioned this with Will Hill earlier. That last shot by Halliburton at the end of regulation, where he goes back to the 3-point line, he's got his toe on the line, ball hits the back of the rim, it's hanging up in there. It felt like a movie, JVT. The ball's up in the air forever, time standing still, everybody watching, holding your breath, what's going to happen, and it drops in, and then he's got his toe on the line. That was better than a movie, the way that game played out last night, but crushing at the end for the Knicks. Can the Knicks bounce back from this, and can they bounce back in Game 2? We're seeing the adjustment now, 5.5 to 6-point favorites in Game 2.
I mean, I'm having a hard time. You know me, right? Like, we talk about this all the time. We were on primetime. Like, you should make adjustments game to game based on actual, injuries, lineup changes, whatever it is. The only reason that we're up to 5.5 is because the Knicks lost the previous game.
Right.
I can't really buy that, Matt. But here's the problem. If you're betting straight up losers against the spread the next game, you're hitting at a 66% clip here in this postseason. The zigzag has worked beautifully. If you're an old school handicapper that looks like to blindly play that, you're clearing 66% at this point right now. So I personally would say it's Pacers or nothing. I think the Knicks can win the game. I think it's going to be another tight, high-scoring affair. I think in clutch time, Brunson has been very good over a larger sample size, and they can probably get that done. But after what we watched yesterday, especially in that second half, and especially with the way the Knicks failed to defend, remember, this is a Knicks team that in the regular season was 6-16 against teams, the top 10 net rating, and one of the worst defensive teams against those opponents. And that bad defense showed up again yesterday. They're going to go after Brunson. He's not a good defender. You saw it down the stretch of the regulation and in overtime where they were pulling him off the floor in defensive situations. The Pacers are going to go after that. They're going to pick at that scab. And I think with an inflated number just because the Knicks lost, to me, it's Pacers or nothing. I've been getting my face kicked in trying to play against the zigzag, but I will stand firm and do it one more time here for Game 2.
These Eastern Conference Finals are going to be great. Knicks, Pacers, and Pacers up a game. The adjustments made now. Knicks -6 in Game 2, total 225.5, and DraftKings up to 226.5. Jonathan Von Tobel with us. All right, JVT, we got 2 minutes left. Let's hit on tonight. T-Wolves and Thunder. Thunder trailed by 4 at the half in Game 1 and won the game 114-88. Anthony Edwards scoreless in the fourth quarter. T-Wolves run off the floor in the second half of that game. The hook just disappeared here at Circa, went from 8.5 to 8. OKC -8, total of 217.5. What's your handicap tonight?
I think 8.5 is too much. And look, this comes from somebody who played Minnesota in Game 1. I'm going to go back to the well here in Game 2. If you go back, there's quite a few things that I think really the Timberwolves can fix. Anthony Edwards only had 1 shot attempt in the restricted area, Matt. This is a team that only took 12 shot attempts within 4 feet of the basket. We know that they thrive at getting to the rim. They dominated the rim when you talk about that series with Golden State from Game 2 on. And they can do that here against Oklahoma City, but the Thunder cut the rim off. They've got to put more pressure there. They've got to stop taking as many threes. But even then, Matt, I don't know if you saw the stat, they were 11 of 39 on open three-point attempts against Oklahoma City. Those should go down a second time around if you're going to be able to generate them. OKC is very good at forcing turnovers. Timberwolves commit a lot of turnovers. I think it's going to be a tight game, though. I think these two teams are tighter than what this number is. I mean, think about it. They were laying 10.5, 10 at home against the wounded Nuggets, and now we're sitting at 8.5, 8. I just think that this is a little too far. I think the Timberwolves are deserving of a little bit more respect.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. 15 for 51 from 3, the T-Wolves in the first game, but I said the same thing. A bunch of open looks that they missed. And Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo combined to shoot 3 for 19 from 3, and those are two guys who are going to have to step it up tonight. JVT, last 15 seconds. Did you play any player props?
Yeah, Rudy Gobert over 14.5 points and rebounds. He was in foul trouble early. He got his minutes cut into, and then the game was out of hand. I don't think he's getting played out of the series. And then Cason Wallace over points, rebounds, and assists, 11.5 at -120. He's averaging like 27 minutes per game last 3 games. He's now a big part of their playoff rotation, and I think he's going to have another solid performance here today.
All right, great to have you back on Primetime tonight.
Thanks, man.
This is VSiN Primetime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Great to have JVT back on VSiN Primetime tonight. There's breakdowns of the 2 association series, the one in the East with the Pacers up 1-0 on the Knicks, and tonight in the West, OKC Thunder up 1-0 on the T-Wolves. And we're about, let's say, a few minutes away from tip-off in OKC for Game 2. Will Hill is rejoined the show tonight. Will, did you get that Starlink satellite fixed, or are you ready to go?
I think so. It was a great spot with JVT. Always good to hear what he has to say. We talk about some people who have a New York bias. JVT is not one of them. JVT does not have a New York bias. We can say that pretty safely.
Yeah, that's true. No, JVT is not a Knicks guy. He's not a New York guy. But that was a hell of a game last night. Looking forward to game 2 in the East, which is on Friday night. So tomorrow night we get more Pacers-Knicks. Tonight, Minnesota-OKC. And in the last 15 minutes here, the hook has disappeared off the 8 at Circa. OKC was an 8.5-point favorite. Now it's 8, total of 217. Will, we've talked a little bit about player props. I don't bet a lot of player props in the NBA, but I got to think tonight with Anthony Edwards, if you got his player points, his points prop at 25.5 or 26, DraftKings has got 26 or more minus 115. I'm going over on that. He had 18 in game 1, scoreless fourth quarter. I think you're going to see a different Anthony Edwards here in game 2. Would you agree with that tonight?
I would agree with that, and I wouldn't object to anybody who looks at the first quarter player props market, which is always dicey because if you think you have a good handicap on something, and it sounds like you do, you want it as long as possible. You want to give it as long as possible to play out. You don't want to, these lightning bets where you reduce your bet to just one quarter instead of the full game. But I like the angle of Edwards, and he's going to come out aggressive, and that will show itself in the first quarter. So if you want to take part of your bet and put it on the first quarter player prop over with the idea that Edwards is going to come out aggressive and we're going to see a good, 7, 8, 9 shot attempts from Edwards early on, I think that makes some sense too. But I completely agree. Edwards, aggressive, more assertive, can't have these disappearing acts. They're the undermanned team. They're the less talented team. They need their best player to play like their best player. And these scoreless no-show performances from Edwards in big spots can't continue if Minnesota wants to stay around and make this a competitive series.
And he's going to hear a lot of critics if he doesn't show up tonight. That's Will Hill. Follow him at @NotTheWillHill on Twitter. Quick update in baseball before we get more Derek Stevens here. Guardians 3, Tigers 0, bottom of the 7th in Detroit. Brewers and Pirates in a rain delay in Pittsburgh. Brewers have a 5-3 lead in the bottom of the 6th. Nationals 7, Braves 5 in D.C., top of the 6th. Seattle 2, Houston 0, top of the 2nd. Will, I believe you said lay it with the Mariners. Did you do that?
Small bet on the Mariners. And I did bet the Pirates pitcher, the starter, I think his name is Burrows, under 3.5 strikeouts, and he left the game with 3. The only problem, we're in a rain delay here, so I'm going to have to check my house rules and see if this game doesn't continue. Is this a void? I hope that's not the case, but with player props, I think in baseball they need to go the full 9 or at least 8.5 to have action. So always important to read the house rules. Hopefully I don't suffer a bad beat or a bad push with this one.
All right, we do have a lot of rain in Boston today, so the game at Fenway postponed between Baltimore Orioles, Boston Red Sox, and that does it for the baseball card tonight. Not a lot going on in MLB, but you've got a stacked Friday card. Paul Skeens pitching for the Pirates, and the Dodgers and the Mets at Citi Field, New York, with Clayton Kershaw making his second start for the Dodgers. We'll look ahead to the Friday schedule a little bit more later in the show. It's been a big day here at VSiN and Circa Sports with Derek Stevens in studio announcing the guarantees for the biggest football handicapping contest in the world for 2025. We ran the video earlier this hour of Derek explaining the $15 million guarantee for the Circa Survivor contest. Derek Stevens, Mike Palm, and Jeff Benson of Circa also explained the guarantee for the Circa Million handicapping contest. That's 5 plays a week against the spread. Here's more from Follow the Money with Mitch, Paul, Derek, Jeff, and Mike.
Circa Millions this year. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, obviously excited to bring this back for the 6th year. A lot of this stuff really hasn't changed from last year. I think when you have such a great contest and you do so many things right, you don't want to change what works. So for us, we're going to bring back the Circa Million basically in the same format from last year. The guarantee will be $6 million. And for those, new listeners, Basically, it's $1,000 to enter, 5 entries per person max, and you're making 5 picks against the spread every week. So we'll put out the spreads on Thursday morning, and they're static lines. They don't change. This is a traditional pick'em contest. You get 1 point for each correct selection, and then a half a point for every push. And so for us, it's a great contest. You get to test yourself against a lot of other elite handicappers. Over the course of a season and over the course of each individual quarter. So for us, obviously, we're guaranteeing $6 million in total prizes. If we don't get 6,000 entries, which Derek will remind me, we've never gotten up to this point, we will then foot the bill to get to that $6 million. Last year, we got 5,817 entries. Hopefully we get to 6,000 this year. Obviously, any entries that go over the 6,000 number will go into the quarter and the full season prizes. If you're lucky enough to win the contest, you're going to win $1 million for first. Also, you'll win a coveted blue jacket. And then we have $3.65 million in cash prizes that get paid out to places 2 through 100. So obviously, there were a ton of people that did well last year. I believe somewhere in the top 10, they all made 6 figures plus. So it's like I said, it really rewards you for, putting together a really strong season over the course of the 18 weeks. And then obviously we've added the quarters, which isn't something new. That's something we've done here for the last couple of years. $300,000 per quarter. Quarter 1 and 3 are 4-week quarters. Quarter 2 and 4 are 5-week quarters. $150,000 for first, $60,000 for second, $40,000 for third, $15,000 for fourth, and $10,000 for fifth. So obviously, you can get off to a bad start. You may not necessarily think you're in it for the full season in terms of prizes, but you run hot for 4 or 5 weeks, and it's really life-changing money. You can get a nice 6-figure score, and there's different ways that if you don't have a good season, over the 18 weeks, that you can make some money in the contest. So a lot of different ways to win. And then obviously we have the quarterly booby prize for last place. There's some game theory in that in terms of, people going against the moves, the consensus moves, and things like that. You get $25,000 for first place for the quarterly booby. And then we have the full season booby as well. So, people get off to a bad start and then they flip from, trying to pick winners to trying to pick losers, which, is just as every bit difficult. You can win $100,000 for the last place booby prize and then $50,000 for second place. So like I said, a lot of different ways to win in this traditional pick 'em against the spread football contest. And we're going to continue to roll out, a lot of what we did last year that made the contest successful.
Very good. The quarterly booby, only one winner unless there's a dead heat.
Unless there's a dead heat, yeah, that gets chopped. If there's 2 people, you each get 12-5. But yeah, only one quarterly booby, and then 1 through 5th in terms of the MVP bonus prizes.
All right, that was Jeff Benson of Circa Sports stealing the show there, talking the entire time during that video. Derek Stevens sat there, did not say a word. Mike Palm did not say a word. Paul Howard did not say a word during that clip. I've never seen Paul Howard stay quiet for that long. But anyway, Will Hill, did you catch all that? Did you get all the details on the booby?
I did. In my 4-leg parlay, under 0.5 words, I parlayed Derek Stevens, Mike Palm, Paulie Howard, and Mitch Moss. A 4-leg under 0.5 words parlay cashed. But no, excited for the contest. It's a great contest. It's it's just fun. Everyone starts 0-0. The survivor, if you're in it, you're in first place. Anyone can pick 5 games a week. It's challenging, but it's simple, and it's when we're talking about this, it means football is right around the corner. So that's even better.
Yeah, it's my favorite contest, Circa Million, and $6 million guaranteed in that contest. I just can't get over. It was Jeff Benson. I know he's not that small in real life. Was he sitting on a shoebox between Derek Stevens and Mike Palm? We got to put that screenshot up there one more time. Derek Stevens looks like the Incredible Hulk. And Mike Palm looks like Andre the Giant with Jeff Benson in the middle. We got to get this guy a bigger chair. Paul Howard quietly on the end there, and Mitch Moss on Follow the Money. Paulie was fired up about the contest announcements today. Hey, quickly here, let's talk about smarter bets. And they start here and last all year with VSiN Pro. Right now, sign up on an annual subscription and get 14 months for just $1.99 when you use promo code PRO. That's 2 extra months for free. For less than 50 cents a day to become a VSiN Pro subscriber, you get access to everything we do here at the Sports Betting Network. Don't wait. Go to vsin.com/subscribe and use promo code PRO to lock in this offer. Again, if you haven't heard it before, it's vsin.com/subscribe.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Underway in OKC, Julius Randle misses a 3. He was 5 for 6 from 3 in Game 1. And we are 30 seconds into the game, no score right now. Will Hill, Matt Youmans here on VSiN PrimeTime. Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals in progress. We're going to follow the live betting angles and numbers throughout the rest of the show tonight. Will Hill, welcome back in here. Did you notice in OKC tonight, they're color coordinated again, but all the fans are not wearing white tonight. It's a blue out tonight in OKC.
Yeah, the old blue out instead of the white out as these teams continue to trade misses here. Randall missed the 3, Holmgren missed the 3. And then it looks like Edwards goes to the basket to get Minnesota on the board. 2-0. The T-Wolves with an early lead. Did you end up pulling the trigger on Edwards over prop?
I did not. Didn't have time. Too busy hosting the show here to get it in. But that's one I was looking to play, and I probably should have just bet it earlier today because I was thinking about it. After his fourth quarter no-show in Game 1 and looking at those numbers today, that's one thing I thought about playing. I will just follow along as a hypothetical wager tonight. But that was the one player prop I did like was Anthony Edwards over 25.5 for 26, and he's got the first 2 for the T-Wolves. Like I said, I don't bet very few player props in the NBA playoffs. I think I've made 2 or 3 bets on player props throughout this entire postseason. How about you, Will? Do you bet many of these?
Sometimes a few more than you. I'm more traditional in terms of like sided total. I know like the younger guys, the younger guys at our network, just guys I'm friends with. The younger guys love the props. I think you and I are of the age where it's more traditional sides and totals, maybe a team total. But look, the props can be profitable if you can study that. It's just a situation where the books, if you have to, the more stuff you have to hang numbers on, the less likely you are to put up good numbers on stuff. So it's hard to price everything properly as we apparently have a referee injury. It looks like Scott Foster got whacked in the nose here. He drew some blood, but no, I'll play an occasional player prop, but not something that is the main ingredient in my betting diet.
Scott Foster took a shot to the face. Look at that, and I think it was a direct hit to the nose. I don't think that was on purpose. Even though there have been players in the league who've wanted to punch Scott Foster in the face in the past, I don't think that was on purpose. By the player there, accidental hit to the nose, and the blood was dripping on the court there. So you're going to get that cleaned up and get back in action. Like I said, I know there have been plenty of players in the past who have wanted to punch Scott Foster in the nose, but that was not intentional. So we're at the 10:23 mark here, 2-2. Scott Foster, Tony Brothers, and Pat Frey here are the officials tonight. Will, when you look at the NBA, and I talk about this a lot, there are 3 teams on the floor, not just 2. Sure. And this is more prominent during the David Stern era, where you felt like you had to handicap the officials and not just the 2 teams. But a lot of times you do have to pay attention to the officials, the trends with the officials, and who are in these games. I think, in the past, in the David Stern era, I paid a lot more attention to that than I do now. How about you?
Totally agree, especially now where everything's under a microscope and, you can make a bad call, but and I think this is maybe why home court advantage is not what it used to be. 50-50 call, let's just give it to the home team. Well, that doesn't work anymore because we have the challenge system, and if we have Twitter and we have the internet, and you make a bad call, you're going to be on all these, various networks and various shows. It's going to be there for everyone to see. It used to be, the 80s, the 90s, and before. You make a bad call, you can argue about it, but we just kind of move on. There wasn't the focus on the refs, the attention on them like there is now, where everything is under such a microscope, especially with the replay. So that factor, just the new modern era, the fact that it's not David Stern and there's not that WWE wrestling component to it. I would just tell you, if it was Knicks Pacers, Knicks up 1-0, or Pacers up 1-0, I would want nothing to do with Indy tomorrow. If it was David Stern's old league, the old Lakers Kings series was a famous one. The Larry Johnson 4-point play, Knicks and Pacers. It was something you had to factor, but I do think it's something that you still have to think about, but not nearly as much as you used to.
Oh, yeah, there used to be definite spots in playoff series when Stern was commissioner where I would say there's no way they're going to let the Lakers lose this game, right? Or no way they're going to let the Knicks lose this game. And they're going to send in the officiating crew that's going to ensure the Knicks are going to win or the Lakers are going to win or the Celtics, whatever it may be. 4-2 OKC over the T-Wolves early on here. And not much movement so far on the live betting screen. But I will say that OKC, with a 6-2 lead, moved to a 10.5-point favorite for the game. Well, when you got an 8-point favorite at tip, and within 2 minutes, the number gets to 10.5. Is that an overreaction? I'm going to say obviously there's the formula that they're going to follow, the math formula they're going to follow to put up the numbers on these games. But 2 minutes into it, to move the number from 8 to 10.5 on a 6-2 game, to me seems like an overreaction by the odds maker.
Yeah, and that instinct is proven correct, at least for the moment, as Minnesota hits a 3 and cuts it to 6-5. So you and I have talked about this. You can get so many good numbers live now. It's harder and harder to find the 110. You end up paying the minus 115 or the minus 120, which, to some people might sound like a lot, but you just add that money up if you're betting every day all year. It ends up being a lot. But the trade-off, I think, is worth it at times because you can get some really good numbers live. If you're inclined to, you could play some middles where this team's off to a good start. You bet one way, and then you set up a middle the other way. If you time it properly, you can just basically free roll and set yourself up with some good numbers and to basically play sweat free. So I do think these books overreact sometimes to early starts one way or another.
And I should say it's more the algorithm than it is the odds maker. It's obviously the math formula that. But again, if you were thinking about playing the T-Wolves before the game and you didn't grab the 8. 2 minutes into the game, you could add 10.5. Now, I understand not everyone has access to live betting. Not everybody has the time to sit around and live bet these games every night, so not everyone's going to play it that way. But if you are, and especially if you're a pro bettor, you're trying to set up middles, you're trying to get the best number. Hey, look, if you didn't take +8 pregame or 8.5, take 10.5. 2 minutes into the game, you got 2 points to better of it. I think you can live with that. Even if you go down tonight, if you get 2 points to better of the number in almost any game, it's worth taking. And right now we're at the 7:50 mark. Thunder up 10-7 on the T-Wolves. The total is 217.5, and the live number back down to 8.5. All right, Will, let's do a quick look at what's happening in the world of baseball tonight. And there's not a lot. You were mentioning that you wanted to bet against Lance McCullers, who was starting for the Astros. You said lay it with Seattle. That number was minus 133. Mariners up 2-0 in the top of the third in Houston. Anything else you have going on the games tonight in Detroit, Pittsburgh, or D.C.?
No, like you said, it's just a quiet card. It's just watching this stuff. Milwaukee and Pittsburgh's in a rain delay. Bybee and Flaherty in Cleveland, Detroit was a good pitching matchup. It looks like the Detroit Tigers have the bases loaded, though, down 3-0 with nobody out with a chance to get back into this game. So, no, it was a light card. Didn't want to force anything. We've got a decent card tomorrow. Paul Skeens in action going for the Pirates. We mentioned earlier, the Rockies, I don't think I've ever seen. I monitor this stuff pretty closely. I've been betting baseball for a long time. I don't remember ever seeing a 3.5 before first pitch. I know it was a high total, but 3.5 runs as a point spread, as a run line in Major League Baseball is basically unheard of. But that's where we're at with Colorado. I memean, they are historically bad. They're 8-42. They are just a 34-game winning streak from getting back to 500, if you want to be optimistic about it.
8-42, worst start through 50 games in MLB history. And, the total 11.5 at Coors Field today, but a book did put up 3.5, plus 3.5 if you wanted to take the Rockies, which would have been a winner. Phillies win the game 2-0. How about this? Let's get back to the Stanley Cup playoffs just for a few seconds here. I had someone we all know text me today and say, bet the Carolina Hurricanes to win the series, blah, blah, blah. I didn't do it. I said going into this series I was not going to bet against the Florida Panthers. They've been to the last 2 Stanley Cup finals. They look like a team I don't want to fade. Florida up 3-0 on the Hurricanes at the end of the first period. Will, the home team about to go down 2-0 in this series. Florida 3, Carolina 0, and the Hurricanes went off at minus 135 favorites tonight, total of 5.5. Not looking good for the Canes. We'll talk about that a little bit more in hour number 3. Right now, I want to tell you about ProfitX. NBA playoffs are heating up, and our partner ProfitX is offering the best odds all playoffs long. ProfitX is a peer-to-peer sports exchange available in 40-plus states. You're able to make your sports picks against other groups of fans rather than against sports books. Exchanges guarantee you the best odds on average by 10 to 20%. You can even request your own odds. Download ProfitX today with code VSiN and earn up to $200 and profit cash over your first month. Again, ProfitX, the code VSIN. Thunder, T-Wolves underway in OKC. Will, Hill, Matt Youmans. We're back to talk about it here in a couple minutes on the Sports Betting Network.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.